These days, it's difficult to get a good deal on airfare. Flight prices are always changing and they can seem pretty unpredictable if you don't know any better. In this video, I'll give you some solid tips to find and book cheap flights and to get the best deals for your next trip. Plus, I will share a mistake that I made that cost me dearly, and I will show you how to avoid doing what I did. Oh, and by the way, if you think you're getting a leg up on the airlines by searching for flights in incognito mode, think again. At the end of this video, I will tell you the truth about incognito mode, and I'll show you an alternative that really works. The first thing to know about finding cheap flights is that there is no best day to book. Flight prices fluctuate a lot, and there are a lot of theories out there as to how and why airline prices fluctuate and what the best day of the week or the best time of day is to buy your ticket. I'm dubious. One of the theories circulating around is that airlines reset their prices once a week based on the number of available seats and the amount of time left until the flight. I totally get this, and this sounds plausible. But the flight hacker angle to this theory is that the airlines all reset their prices on Tuesday at midnight. Okay, Tuesday at midnight. So my question is, what time zone? Does each airline do their reset on Tuesday at midnight in their head office time zone? Or is there some universal time zone that all airlines around the world adhere to? I could never find a proper answer to that. So if you're that person who gets on their computer at 12:01 a.m. on Wednesday morning to book your airfare, please drop a comment and tell me what time zone you're in. The truth is, airlines don't tweak their prices once a week. It's more like once an hour. Statistically speaking, there isn't a categorical best day of the week to book. Now, there may be no best day to book your flight, but there is a best day to fly, and that is usually during the week. Stats show that flying on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays can save you some money, so if you're planning a trip, see if you can fly on those days. But even that's not 100% foolproof. I've gotten killer deals on other days of the week as well. And all of these rules are out the window if you're flying around peak holidays when you will inherently pay more. In a little bit, we're going to do a deep dive on price fluctuation. But first, we need to talk about routes, because there is some finesse to choosing your actual flight routing and dates. The more flexible you are, the better a price you will get. There are three main ways to be flexible in your searches: with dates, airports, and trips. First up, dates. Lots of flight search engines give you the ability to choose flexible dates, and they will show you the prices for your desired flight either a few days before or after your specified flight date, or even across a whole month. Google Flights is great for this. The more flexible you are with your dates, the better a chance that you will have at getting the cheapest prices. Next, being flexible with airports. If there's a nearby airport you can fly into or out of, make sure that you include nearby airports in your search, or otherwise simply do a specific search using those nearby airports. Some search engines allow you to choose a city that includes multiple airports rather than just a specific airport, so that's very handy. And if you're booking a transcontinental flight, sometimes flying into or out of airports that aren't even that nearby, but that you could get to by a bus or a train or a repositioning flight, can save you a lot of money in the end. Now, if you are feeling super duper flexible, the final way to use this flexibility to your advantage is to keep an open mind regarding the whole trip. Google Flights and some other search engines as well give you the option to select a region to fly into, and then you can see where the cheapest prices are to fly to. Once you've nailed down a route and a date for your trip, it's time to get a better handle on the price fluctuations for this flight. You'll do this by tracking flight prices. There are a few different ways that you can track flight prices. My two favorite methods are Google Flights and Hopper. Google Flights, which has a very robust search function and is my favorite, frankly, does two cool things to help you understand how cheap or expensive the flight you're searching is. First up, it shows you where the flight you're searching falls in the price spectrum compared to the average. If it's particularly low, you might just want to pull the trigger. If it's average or high, then toggle on the track prices function. You'll need to sign into your Google account to do this. And then you can get regular emails when the prices change. The other way that I like to track flight prices is through a free app called Hopper. It tracks your flights and uses AI predictions to tell you when the best time to book is going to be. You can book directly through their app, and they give you various incentives to do so, like price guarantees and carrot cash discounts and such. Although I'm usually a fan of booking directly with the airline, something that I'll discuss a bit later in this video, once I found Hopper was offering a better price than even the airline could. It wasn't a huge difference, maybe $25. And I was a bit dubious, but I tried booking anyway, and it worked a charm. I've used Hopper to track prices for quite a few years, and one piece of advice that I will give you is that it's not always advisable to wait for the app to tell you to buy, especially if it's getting close to flight time. If the price is even close to what they predict will be the lowest price, then better to just book it. Better to have a ticket at close to the lowest predicted price than to wait too long and find out that the app was wrong and that you lost your window of opportunity to get the cheapest flight. Now, if you're nerdy like me, you will love this next tip. Track prices with different sets of flights long before you fly. If you know you're going to take a flight, say next year, try tracking prices for a similar flight now to see how it changes over time. Just for fun, I recently used Google Flights to track the prices of a random business class flight from Canada to Tanzania, and I was fascinated to see the prices fluctuated between $3,000 and $10,000. This next tip is also for flight search nerds. Cross-reference your search on different sites. So far in this video, I've been pretty gung-ho on Google Flights, and it's pretty much exclusively what I use. But there are plenty of other popular sites out there for finding cheap flights, like Skyscanner and Momondo and Kayak. So in the spirit of science, check out prices of your desired flights on a few of these other sites as well. If you've done this cross-referencing and found a price difference, please let me know in the comments what sites gave you the best rates. I would love to know. The reason I stick to Google Flights is because you can't book your flight through Google. You can only search it. And I like that because I got burned with this next tip. Beware of flights through an OTA that are cheaper than all the others. OTA, by the way, stands for Online Travel Agent, and they are websites that allow you to book travel arrangements. Expedia is an example of a very large, well-known OTA, but there are OTAs all over the place selling all kinds of travel. They aren't inherently bad, but buyer beware. I was in Ecuador a few years ago and I wanted to book a flight to the United States. Most of the flights were coming in around the same cost, except for this one site that offered them for about 25% less, and they had a way better route and connection time. I went over to the airline website to look for the same flight and route, but it didn't come up at all there. And I thought this was odd, but I thought, well, I don't know, maybe the OTA had some kind of special hold on the last remaining tickets for these flights, or something. So I booked the flight through this OTA, only to get an email the very next day saying my flight had been changed, and instead I had a horrendously timed overnight layover that was simply out of the question. So I had to go through the laborious process of canceling and getting my money back, which entailed a whole level of grief that, quite frankly, I wouldn't wish on anybody. Lesson learned. If there is an outlier on the route timing or pricing or both that seems too good to be true, probably is. All right, next tip. Subscribe to cheap flight newsletters and alerts. If you have the flexibility to jump on a cheap airfare opportunity like a mistake fare or an unexpected flash sale, and then work out the rest of the details of your trip later, then cheap flight subscriptions might be for you. There are a few out there, including Scott's Cheap Flights, Dollar Flight Club, Airfare Watchdog, Secret Flying, and others. A mistake fare, or error fare by the way, is as it sounds. The airline has mistakenly priced a flight too low, but technically if you get a flight at that rate, they're supposed to honor it. The general rule of thumb is book it, and then wait a bit to see if they cancel it before you make any other travel plans. Once I caught a mistake fare from Jakarta, Indonesia to New Delhi, India with an overnight layover in Sri Lanka for $250 in business class. It was something like 14 hours of total flight time for $250 in business class. The trick to getting mistake fares like these is to jump quickly on them because they will not last. So once again, flexibility is key. Here's my last tip that starts with what I think is a myth, the Incognito myth. There's a theory out there that if you search for the same flight more than once, the cookies that the airline has stored in your browser pick up on this, and then the airline artificially raises the flight prices, presumably to make you so panicky that you will book right away because you're scared the prices are just gonna keep going up forever, and you're gonna wanna lock something in. The solution to this theoretical problem is that you clear your cookies and open a new Incognito browser window, and then the airline will be none the wiser that you've searched for this airfare before. The truth is, the airline isn't changing the price based on your search history. If you've experienced this, it's a coincidence. As I mentioned at the start of this video, airlines are tweaking their prices all of the time. If you really want to disguise your flight searches and even take advantage of searching for your flight in other currencies entirely, which is a super duper advanced strategy that sometimes results in big savings, then scrap the Incognito window and use a VPN instead. I use a VPN religiously when I'm on any kind of public Wi-Fi connection, even if it's password protected. But that's to protect my IP address and my information. Advanced flight hackers use their VPNs to set their computer to look like it's in a different country, because sometimes booking a flight in a different country or currency will cost less. Now, this is super hit and miss, but it can work. Once, I was in Thailand and I wanted to book a flight with Malaysia Airlines. Without the VPN, the airline website saw that I was in Thailand and gave me a quote in Thai baht. Then I turned on my VPN and set it to Malaysia. They quoted me in Malaysia ringgit, and after the conversion, it ended up being about 25% cheaper. Now, this strategy doesn't always work, and you can dive down an endless rabbit hole of searching for airfare using different countries and points of sale. Generally speaking, I suggest keeping it simple and try setting the VPN to 2 different countries and comparing the results. First, set it to your home country. That way you'll be charging the expense in your home currency, which could save you up to 3% on invisible currency conversion fees that if you don't have the right kind of credit card. I'll save all of that for another video. 2, set the VPN to the home country of the airline. For example, if you're searching a Colombian Airlines flight, set your VPN for Colombia, and just compare the 2. Although you might assume that making your point of sale the same as the airline's head office would always be cheaper, it's not always true, but it's definitely worth checking. NordVPN is my VPN of choice. It costs a couple of bucks a month, and it's secure and it's easy to use. I've included a link in the description to their latest deal. Thank you for watching my primer on booking cheap flights. Do you use any of my strategies? Do you have any additional hot tips? Please share in the comments. I'm Nora Dunn, aka the Professional Hobo, and I will catch you next time.